As you know, AWS is pretty complex. It has tons of services and components, and there are projects that run hundreds or thousands of servers and create hundreds or thousands of resources on AWS. As we saw in the Terraform module, it's much more efficient to automate the process of creating servers and configuring them than doing all this work manually. So we created Terraform projects that automate creating EC2 instance with all the needed resources like security group, key pair, etc., as well as automated EKS cluster creation and configuration. Now, what about automating repetitive maintenance tasks like backups and cleanups, or updating 100 servers by adding new tags to them, or doing health checks and monitoring on these hundreds of servers or cluster components? Of course, doing that manually will be very time consuming and kind of a waste of time of a DevOps engineer or developer when they could be doing something much more productive instead. So how do we automate these maintenance tasks? And as you probably already guessed, one of the ways to do that is writing Python programs. Python has a library called Boto that makes it possible to work with AWS resources and pretty much do anything you can imagine with AWS. You can create resources, configure resources, fetch the data about them, and do all sorts of operations on your AWS account. Now, this is a library for AWS, but of course, if you're working with other platforms like Google Cloud or Azure Cloud, there are own libraries for those platforms as well in Python. So you would use them instead. Now, that means Python can actually do all the things we did with Terraform as well, when we automated some AWS tasks for infrastructure provisioning. However, and this is an important note here, even though Terraform and Python can both do some of the same things of infrastructure provisioning on AWS, for example, it's important to know which tool to use for which specific tasks. And in order to see that, we're going to create a VPC with subnet in AWS using the Boto library of Python. And then we're going to see a comparison. So let's jump right into the demo part.